You are joining Making a Difference with Melissa Clark, a new show that shares the compelling stories and voices of well-known and everyday people who change the world in big and small ways. Enjoy our guests, call in, or just listen to be inspired. For this show was made with you in mind. Please join us every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our special guests. And you can listen to our recast at www.melissaclarkshow.com.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us here on Making a Difference. I'm Melissa Clark. I was so excited to sit down with paranormal investigator Susan Slaughter. You may best know her from Ghost Hunters and Travel Channel's Paranormal Caught on Video. I wanted to sit down with Susan and ask her a couple of questions regarding all the tension that's going on in today's world in our human form, that perhaps maybe spirits are coming from beyond the grave and trying to tell us something. So Susan actually took herself out of LA and put herself in a secluded area in Joshua Tree in California. So we were unable to do a video, but the audio came out great and we did not edit anything. So take a listen. Hi, Susan Slaughter. How are you?
Hi, Melissa. Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Where are you coming from right now? I know you're in California.
Oh gosh, I'm out in the high desert right now. It's about 100 degrees and rising as the summer progresses. It's Yucca Valley near Joshua Tree. So that's where I'm at right now.
Oh wow. Did that come from the song You Too? Didn't he do the
I believe they recorded their album out here, that famous album in Joshua Tree. Yes.
Because it's so secluded.
Yeah, they have a lot of artists come out here, musicians, to record and and to write too, a lot of writers and musicians.
That's so cool.
A very creative space out here.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you on. I watch you many times on Paranormal Activity on Travel Channel.
Sure, yeah, Paranormal Caught on Camera.
Caught on Camera, yes. Yeah. It's so nice to have you here. Go ahead. You're a lot of things, and I'm just so, I want to talk about everything that you go through. You are a paranormal expert.
Well, I'm an investigator, and I do a lot of research in the field. So I guess when you start teaching people, you kind of you take on this teacher/professor role, and then it makes you, I guess, the expert in a subject, So yes, I guess you can label me a paranormal expert. I've been investigating the paranormal since I was 18. With a team professionally, and I'm 33 now. So
you had your first paranormal experience when you were 5. Can you tell us about that, please?
Sure. I feel like most people that get into the paranormal usually their interest stems from a personal experience, and since I was young, I've had many personal experiences. So when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I remember seeing a ball of light in my room, and I also remembered seeing like shadow figures, and I was visited once too, a little bit later on when I was probably like 9 or 10, by an actual ghost of a person that had passed on. So as I got, it was weird. I just didn't know how to connect the dots with the different types of phenomena that I was experiencing. My mother, what I was experiencing, what I was seeing, she would always kind of, tell me, don't worry, what you're seeing is probably your guardian angel. She was raised Catholic, so she always wanted to give me a positive, outlook on the phenomena that was happening to me. So I guess thanks to her, I never really had a fear of the phenomena, which kind of is why I ended up seeking it out, later on in life.
Right. Are you considered an empath?
I would say I have empathic abilities, yeah, and not necessarily with only the people that have passed on, but with everything like other human beings and even like in nature and with animals, I pick up emotional responses that people have, and based off of the emotion that they're feeling, I could understand how they're relating to whatever is happening at the moment. Like, so if I'm talking to somebody and maybe it's a touchy subject, I could tell whether, you know, they're holding back information from me on whether they're happy about that or angry, or, you know, it hits a chord because it strikes a memory that's unpleasant, or and so a lot of the times when I come into locations, the emotions that I feel are usually of the energies of people who had lived there or had passed on. And that's how I read the energies in the rooms, is based off of emotions. Sometimes I get really emotional too, like I'll take it on a little bit, and it could be really uncomfortable, especially when you go to locations that have really dark pasts and you're dealing with, you know, either like murders and suicides, and depending on where, you know, I remember being at I was in Philadelphia investigating like a fort that a wife had lived there, but she was, while her husband was getting, you know, working in the army. This is like from the 1700s. So she was like, I forget if she was like a captain's wife or something like that, but as him being gone, he was like letting his wife be used by other members in the barracks and his daughter. And I picked up that emotion of just like, you know, like just really dark emotion, you know, something that's like, I never in my life have personally been, you know, sexually assaulted or raped, you know, and when you pick that emotion up, it's like you're actually being there physically and emotionally yourself, and that could be very uncomfortable, you know.
Wow.
So being an empath is not necessarily a comfortable thing sometimes, you know.
Do you sometimes feel, do you call it a curse or a blessing of what you have? What?
Definitely a blessing.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. I think that a lot of it helps me judge people, you know, not by their cover, because I could see their intentions and their emotions before I take them at face value. And I feel like a lot of the time, you know, people get a lot of the reason why there is so much adversity in culture and in race and the things that we're seeing today in society even, is because people aren't empathetic with each other, and they don't put themselves in other people's shoes, and they don't really see that the things that they have in common with people, and being empathetic and having that ability to read people in an emotional way makes me realize I have more in common with you and other people from other races and cultures, and that essentially we're all the same and want the same thing in life, you know, regardless of cultural background or religious background. And so it helps me, it also helps me like dodge bullets when people are in bad moods, because then I know how to kind of shift them out of it, you know. It's a gift in that way, because I could be disarming, you know. It's a nice way to disarm people who are in a negative headspace.
I want to just ask you one quick question, and this just came to my mind.
Sure.
I watch all these people I just saw a man on Facebook, right? And he was a black gentleman, and he was hollering at the police, and he says, "You want to arrest me? Go and arrest me." And the cop had actually did something to his face where he tased him, or not tased him, but put water on his face. My question to you is, okay, with anybody, do you think that spirits from the past come and invade people, like what's going on now, because they're feeling our energies? I don't know if this is the most craziest question I've ever asked, but perhaps
like they're being possessed by past energies.
That's what. Yes. Do you, Susan, you're the best person to answer this question. Do you think that can happen? Because I would like to, and after we get off the phone, I would like to show you what I mean. I will send you an email of the man. He looked like so angry, and as if like 100 years have come, and this poor guy had to be all of 27 years old. So it's like he got possessed by something. What's your intake?
Are you saying that the black man was possessed, right? That he came
Yes,
off?
but perhaps, okay. Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to, because before I wanted to make that clear, because
Sure.
first of all, we do have like a very dark history when it comes to slave trade in the United States with African Americans. And, you know, not only have African Americans been abused in this country, the United States, but they have been abused and used for slavery in other places in like Central and South America as well. So
Sure.
there's a lineage of ancestral just oppression within individuals. And they come from, there's a bloodline. I'm sure that the majority of the Black people in this country right now come from slaves that were brought here. And even though they don't have the memory of those ancestors, like their great grandmothers who have literally come from Africa, from slave traders, I believe that there is the spiritual practices of those ancestors are very, very strong in things like hoodoo and voodoo. And those practitioners used, like, I guess like great grandma believed that she could contact her ancestors. And so in the afterlife, she becomes an ancestor. And whether this 27-year-old man today is aware of his great grandmother, her energy and blood lineage and all of that memory gets transferred from generation to generation to the modern day. And I think that whether he knows exactly the experience that his ancestors have felt in the past, the anger of that, I mean, obviously he knows, like, there's no secret. I mean, like, white people in our government are trying to oppress and like sugarcoat, you know, and vanilla flavor everything in this country.
Sure.
And, you know, the Black voice is being oppressed all the time, every day. So aside from that just being, I mean, that's enough to become incredibly angry alone. But when you have your ancestral lineage there, I do believe that maybe this is not something that would have normally the gusto or the guts to do it, but he might have the guidance from his ancestors to speak out the way that he did. And I think that now all of those people who have died in the past in this country from slavery and have been abused, even before then, have a linkage to their ancient ancestral, you know, energies. You know, I think that they're very strong, especially in the African community. And I know that, I mean, a lot of the African community now is Christian, when they have been, you know, since this country has been colonized. A lot of the traditional tribal religious practices that they stemmed from are kind of falling by the wayside. But I do believe that the ancestry is really strong, even though their ancestors weren't Christian, and that they're definitely coming through and helping elevate the voices of today's Black person. And I think it's about time that, you know, so much abuse that's going on amplifies within that community, that I think there's going to be an explosion of like a whole revival of that ancestral energy. Because now we're tearing down statues that have been up for 200 years, and, you know, changing flags that have, you know, they took down Confederate flags and all sorts of stuff. And this is something that ancestors, I think the energy of them is being resurrected a little bit now. And so therefore resurrecting the energy of the ancestors and feeding into the blood lineage of the living relatives today, and amplifying those voices of this generation's Black person, you know. And I think that maybe they're not here physically, but they're definitely here in spirit, celebrating and guiding the Black community and like their predecessors to make these changes that they didn't get the chance to do while they were alive.
That's right. I like that. Thank you so much. I kind of just thought about that as you're talking. I'm like, perhaps maybe their ancestors are coming through to them in a physical form. Wow. That's cool. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Let me ask you, what do you feel when you encounter with an entity? Do you see them, or what do you feel?
So seeing entities was something that happened to me as I was younger, but for some reason, as I got older and older,
Mhm.
even though I held on to some of my ability to physically see spirits
Mhm.
started to diminish the older that I got.
Really?
Which is super strange because I try and I practice to hold on to my abilities and I train my abilities, but seeing them is starting to be harder for me, especially like when we're talking about full-bodied apparitions and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, so when I come across energies, like I said, because I'm more empathetic, I feel their presence more like it depends. Like sometimes I feel it in my chest. You
Mm.
know that sensation when you're getting to like the top of a roller coaster and then you just go on that sharp like ride down, that anxious feeling like your whole stomach is lifting up to your throat.
I
That's
don't
what
need to go on a roller coaster for that. I feel that all the time.
Yeah, it happens to me when I come across an
Wow.
energy, and it's kind of
Mm.
I think it's kind of a connection that's establishing through maybe my chakra system, because I do a lot of work through meditation with my chakra,
Yes.
and I find that a lot of the energies connect specifically with my either solar plexus chakra, like in my stomach, or my heart chakra.
Mhm.
Those are the ones that I feel are human in nature, that had once lived on this planet and passed on. And then I'll like that nauseous feeling. It'll subside as I tune into it a little bit and I start allowing the messages to come through. And by messages, I mean emotions. And
Mhm.
sometimes I get memories. So I don't hear like, I'm not clairaudient. Like I don't hear, ghosts speaking to me. I don't capture their voices in my head. What I
Mhm.
do is I pick up memories,
Mhm.
and a lot of the memories, like your memories that you would have, would be from your point of view. So I would never get to really see the actual entity, because the memories that I'm picking up are things that they've witnessed, like from their point of views.
Sure.
So I will pick up things like sometimes hands, because like if you're looking down, you'll see your hands or maybe your legs. So I'll be like, okay, this person, I could tell maybe age based on what their hands look like. So it's kind of, I have to pick up like information like that.
Mm.
Um, and then their emotional state. And that's how I feel like I pick up messages, because I kind of, it's like putting pieces of a puzzle together to make a picture, because I
Yes.
don't have an actual entity speaking to me and telling me their stories. I'm only getting bits and pieces of that detail.
That's
So,
pretty.
but it's a very, and I've come across energies that are also non-human. And I find that the majority of my encounters are non-human energies. I rarely come across like ghosts. I come across more like, I guess you could say, like angels or ancient alien type energies. And those come to me like from my crown chakra, and they tingle. It just tingles, like my whole head feels like like my hair is growing out of my roots, just like, like it's so
Oh
crazy. It's like
my God.
like I don't know how to explain it. It's just like it tickles, actually, kind of. It's just like this tingling sensation. And then I'll get like right above, like in the middle of my eyes, a very like a vibration.
Mhm.
Again, it's kind of a weird sensation. There's a lot of sensations that I pick up, and then I'm like, okay, this is the type of energy I'm dealing with. And sometimes I'll go to a location and I'll get the sensations in my head, and then I realize we're dealing with like a non-human energy that's trying to connect with me psychically. Whereas I find that human energies try to connect with you more emotionally and try to like communicate in a more human way, which for some reason affects me like from my chest to my stomach. I don't know if that's because that's where your voice box is, or where your certain chakras connect or align with, like emotional, at
Mm.
least for me. So it's really, sensitives have very different ways of feeling things.
Mhm.
Their psychic energies come from different parts and portals within their bodies. So it's interesting to say that I experienced something this way. Another sensitive can have a completely different experience when they start channeling.
That's pretty amazing. Oh my God. Do you ever get scared? And I just want to let everybody know who's ever watching this now. Susan's in the desert right now, so that's why she's freezing up, but we can hear you fine.
Am I freezing up? I see you perfectly clear.
I know. You're freezing up. You're freezing up and beautiful, these poses. No, it's as long as we can hear you, we're fine with that. But my question to you is, do you get scared at all? Do you ever get scared?
I think the only times I don't initially get scared with my interaction as it happens, it's when I learn the intentions that start to scare me.
Yes.
You know, so maybe I will have a visitation in my room, whether I see a ball of light or a shadow figure or something like that. And just seeing that doesn't scare me. I actually invite those energies in, and I'm like, great, here's another opportunity to kind of learn something from the supernatural, you know? So I get excited for those moments. So when I connect with them, if the intention isn't the best, sometimes it will be like very jarring for me. And then I'm like, oof, that rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm connecting my energy with them. So I feel like I'm rubbing something or touching something kind of icky that I shouldn't be. I have an example. It was a couple years ago. I had woken up just for no reason. At all. There was a reason, actually. I just don't know why. I just like opened my eyes out of sleep, and then I saw like what looked like a man standing on top of me, and this was a ghost situation. And at first what I saw was like, it was a very modern ghost too, because I saw the shoes. He was wearing like these brown leather Timberlands. I saw the socks go up like halfway to his knees, like he was wearing like those tall tube socks. He was wearing like Dickies shorts. And as I kept looking up and trying to connect with him, you know, try to get all the information I could, then I noticed that I was looking at someone. I instantly got when I connected with his face and his hands, I was connecting with someone who was a violent gang member who abused, raped, and killed women. I was picking up on all of this really dark energy from this ghost, and of a man I've never seen before. And he was standing on my chest, like, but kind of floating above me. And it was really scary, because at first seeing the ghost and trying to connect with it wasn't until I connected, for somehow like energy went into his consciousness. Yeah, that's when I saw all of the things that he did. He had a severe disgust for women, you know, and I think specific types of women. And then I just felt like that maybe he was passing through. And I was actually living in a community that had been completely gentrified, and only like 10 years before was major gang territory.
Really?
Yeah, and every so often these gangs would come through, like do graffiti, like shoot off in the streets, be like, fuck you hipsters. Sorry, I didn't mean like, you know, to say that word, but
it's okay.
There was some hatred towards the gentrification that was happening in that neighborhood. And here I am, a white girl living in what used to be the hood. Yeah. And rent's gone up, skyrocketed. And there's this, you know, like, he came off to me that he was like Central American. I couldn't pick up his race 100%, but he like definitely hated the fact that I was there. And for whatever reason, whatever he had manifested, maybe he had lived within that complex that I was living in. Maybe he died there from gang violence or something. But when he had connected with my energy there, he was like, I don't like you. And his face and the energy was just like, do you know what I do to women like you? Do you know what I do to women like you? And then like that type of energy where I was just like, oh my goodness, like I could feel all of the things he was thinking of doing to me. All the awful things, all the awful like images coming to my mind. And
oh my God,
it all happened in a span of like 10 to 15 seconds. And it scared the crap out of me. And that was what was scary. It was just that there are people that think like that. He died living this lifestyle, you know, like this is a ghost of somebody who was alive doing things like this to women because he hated them. And so that was like kind of an experience that I'll never forget at all.
So and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. That's just, I guess it's part of the territory of what you hold.
It was, yeah.
But
Again,
yeah, like Susan, my question to I have a question. When we die, do we take everything along with us? The anger, the hate, the things that we did here in a humanly function, do we take that along with us when we go into the next journey?
I think what happens when a person dies is,
Yeah.
well, I think that, yes, their consciousness releases and goes back into the big ether, and that energy gets recycled and then output again into new energies and new people as they rebirth. It's kind of not like it's not like you or I are going to be completely reincarnated into another human being. Our whole like soul doesn't go into another human. Mm-hmm. What happens is that the energy gets brought back to the universe to be part of, like, I guess the way I would say it, it's like the big machine that holds all of the energy. And then that energy kind of melts in with the other energy, and then it goes back out. So it's kind of like a recycling of energies. Sure. So it's near impossible to come out all the way, with like a full experience of like you're holding on to a soul from a past. You will get fragments of other souls, and that will make your whole new unique identity when you are born. And so what does happen, these negative imprints that happen that like leave haunts, is it's a psychological imprint of trauma or depression or sadness that gets recorded in the environment. And so we're experiencing an aspect, haunts are only an aspect of human consciousness. It's not the whole person. So when you're experiencing a ghost that's like, let's say, always sad looking, that's not the whole consciousness of that person. That's just that aspect that got left behind. And there is an aspect of that consciousness sometimes that's intelligent, that will notice, like on an investigation, if I go in and I start asking questions to this energy, it's going to I'm only going to get that side of that person, that inkling of that, I'm never going to get that whole being. I'm only going to get that ghost that is there for that moment that had left in that experience. So you'll never get the entire conscious. That's why I feel when investigators go in, we never get the whole, like, where do you go when you die? Like, tell me more about like spirituality. I want to learn from you, because they don't know. You're not talking to that. You're not talking to that cognitive human being that has many aspects to them, that intelligence. You're only talking to like a fragment of a conscious being, like just a little fragment. So that's why we're never getting those real answers on investigations. That's why when I want a real answer, I talk to like non-human entities, that are just pure consciousness and, download information.
Wow. It's so interesting. I've had so many cases, like after my mother died, that's when everything exploded for me. And I'm very open to all this, and I can't describe, like sometime, this is what happens to me here, if I can kindly tell you. I have a long hallway, right? So my bedrooms are here, and then I go into the kitchen. I feel as if sometimes that's like a portal. So when I'm depressed and sad, like my parents died within 18 months apart. And I feel like, my dad died from a quick heart attack. And then 4 months later, she had lung cancer. And that's where all your sadness lies. They were together for 50 years, So I'm so happy that they're together. I'm sad, but the thing is that even like when she was laying on her deathbed, mind you, she was on morphine, she would hear and see my father, and I would feel him and smell him. And it's if he was waiting for her. And I know I wasn't going nuts. I wasn't doing anything. All I was doing was taking care of her. And even one time, I'll tell you this, I was pulling up, she was in we had a Komodo in the bathroom. She was, dying from lung cancer. So she had a diaper. And I was pulling up her diaper, and I hear zzz, zzz, like a bee in my ear, and I swatted. I'm like, there's no flies in here. My mother goes out of nowhere. She was unconscious. She didn't know what day it was. Leave her alone, Billy. That was my father. And I didn't tell her that I heard that fly. Did you ever hear anybody say like a bee or like a touch is the spirit? Did you ever hear that? Am I crazy?
No. And I think the reason why you heard something that you can like give the identity like a bee is kind of a vibrational resonance. And that's why it sounded like that buzz. And a lot of energy comes through wavelengths. And the wavelengths, when it comes crashing with your physical, maybe he was trying to talk to you. So that's why you heard a buzz. Maybe he was trying to say something. And sometimes our ears, are physically, we're still evolving as human beings, and we don't have the capacity to just like tune in with certain, vibrational, maybe it's just like we can't tune into other realms or like different dimensions. And your father maybe was lingering in a dimension close enough to you and your mom because he knew the state that you were going to be in, and he knew the state that your mother was going to. So he was still trying to linger in between realms. So he was just close enough to you and your mom to be there when she passed away, and also to maybe be there for you when you were, that's an isolating feeling when you don't have your parents anymore. I could just imagine, where you're like, I'm alone on this world now. Like, I don't have my mom to talk to. I don't have my dad. So he was probably there keeping, his energy was like fresh enough and maybe conscious enough. And this is where I say, this is not a ghost experience that you had with your father. This was like a conscious, like full consciousness experience where maybe he was trying to connect with you and say something, but your physical limitations weren't allowing it. Your eardrum didn't know how to translate that, physically, but that buzz came through. But your mom, and this happens a lot when people are closer to passing on.
Yes.
They start vibrationally changing themselves. So maybe the vibrations, she was starting to level out vibrationally with your father, who was already passed on, because her energy was closer to that. Wow. But you're not there. You're nowhere near dying yet, so you couldn't resonate. Your energy wasn't vibrating at that level. So that's why you couldn't really get the message, because you physically, you can't. And that's no fault of your own. That's being human, and I think if we knew so much about dying in the afterlife, I think the reason why we don't have all of these, superpowers to like talk to people who have passed on or really connect hardcore with like the ultimate consciousness of the universe is because if we knew everything, then we wouldn't give the universe the experience, the individual experiences it needs to grow and expand and to raise the vibrational consciousness of everybody, because we are all souls all of our souls are connected to a great universal consciousness, and every individual has their own experience that needs to be experienced by, you as a female, or by another person as a man, or by a transgendered Black woman, or by all of these like multi-dimensional experiences is what makes up the ultimate consciousness. And if we knew all the answers, then we wouldn't give that ultimate consciousness the fuel it needs to sustain life as we know it. So it's like this very diverse mechanism, and human beings and their experiences feed that, and when we die as ghosts and stuff, when you come across negative energies, they're like, oh, we could feed off of your life force, by, drawing in your fears and things like that. Or sometimes there's positive encounters like with angels and stuff where they feed your life force, because then they get their gratification from you and, getting what you want in life, or being led to your ultimate, existence. There is a yin and yang to energies, and they kind of fuel each other. So it's like this perpetual infinity, like life force energy that it's very much connected with human spirit. And I think that's like when your mother and your father passed on.
Yeah.
Your father, I think your father, it's like, and that's another thing, like when your father died suddenly, you know, then your mother's ailments became aware. Like it was almost like they kept each other alive. They were together. They were soul mates. You know what I mean? For like 50 years. That's no joke. Like they have connected and melted into each other more than, you know, anybody else within their own lives. And so when he must have known instantly as he passed where your mother was going,
Yeah.
and he didn't want to like veer too far off, you know, so he was definitely sticking around for that. And there are aspects too that are probably, they're still going to be sticking around with you until you go too, and
Oh,
maybe you
yeah.
them,
Yeah.
you know, anytime soon, hopefully.
Well, you
But
know
when,
what? Hey, Susan, I always say this. Listen, who, the people that we leave behind are sad. I am like, not that I'm welcoming it, but I know I have more to do in this life. I believe that this whole thing is a school. I feel very grateful that I am very spiritual and I am connected with God or whoever I am connected
yep,
with. But I feel very happy and content with my spirituality and how I feel. And I always say this too, if somebody's angry and negative on this earth, they have a lot to learn. That's their journey. But I as a person and I as a spirit have to stay away from that. But they all come to me. They all come to me for help. Did you ever hear of that? I've had a couple of people tell me, Melissa, they're coming to you for help. So when you get nasty people or angry people, they're
right.
coming to you because it's a cry for help. But I try to help them, but I there's only so much that I can do because it hurts me because I am an empath and I am feeling them. Do you
Mm-hmm.
understand what I mean? Like sometimes I think I'm absolutely crazy.
Well, a lot of negative people are attracted to empaths because, first of all, our energy draws people in general, because we have like little, like I say, we're like, have you ever seen a sea anemone? Like those little creatures in the water, they have like all these little tentacles, but they're like a plant, but they're alive.
Oh,
Anyway, so we have like little tentacles that like, you know, empaths have tentacles and they're always open and they're always touching energy like this, even though we don't notice it. But sometimes they'll touch on some energy that, yes, needs healing or needs some fixing or needs an outlet. And then it will go to the empath. It will freak out on you. They will cry on your shoulder. They will seek help from you. And it could be very draining for us and also very dangerous for us, because if you're not careful, you take on that attributes of their depression, of their sadness.
yes.
Then all of a sudden, what's their problems become your problems. And then you get so overwhelmed with
Yep.
other people's issues that you forget to like self-love and take care of your issues and deal with your things in life, you know, and then you get all caught up in everybody else's energy. I think that the big reason why I moved out to the desert was there was a lot less people to have my little antennas like touching on.
That's right.
And there is also more nature there was more nature around me than people. And I wanted
Right.
my empathic abilities to be more in tune with the vibrations of nature than with the vibrations of people. And right now, especially where I came from, which was in LA, was shit's going down, you know, things are
Yeah.
happening out there. There's a lot of anger and things. And although I actually think all this output, and especially today with the Black Lives Matter and like the Black voices being heard, this is amazing. But at the same time, I am very affected by it, not because it's my experience, because I've taken on people's generations and generations and generations of anger, sadness, and resentment, and it's almost, it will make me sick. It will make me literally sick. I will feel that I will start getting nauseous, and like sometimes I come across people that are too much, and I find myself like gagging a little bit, and I'm like, oh, you have bad energy, you know, like I have to stay away from you because I'm getting physically affected by you. And that happens like all the time with empaths. So I told you how I felt, you know, like when I have an empathic awareness, but do you have any like onset symptoms that you notice in yourself?
All the time. Like this whole thing that's going on, I'm in the midst of East New York, okay? I live in East New York. I could feel the energy. I feel sick. Just this morning, I had a migraine with Aurora that never hits me. I maybe get it 2 times out of the year. When people tell a story, I put myself in it as if I'm there. And it's like, you got to stop because I can't take this anymore. I'm there. It's happening to me. So it's a very strong feeling. And it really it takes a hold on me. So I go and I see it. I have a beautiful spiritual healer, and nobody knows about her. And I'm not gonna. She doesn't want to be publicized. So I go to her. She does all of my chakras. I do my my energy healings and all that.
Does she use Reiki?
She
like
does
Reiki.
She does Reiki, but she touches
I love
me.
that.
Oh, I love it. But Susan, Reiki, sometimes they touch, sometimes this woman touches me and she massages my back and she gets all of the energy because everything is held here and here because I'm a Taurus.
I'm a Taurus.
Are you?
I am.
What's your birthday?
I feel it all here.
Yes.
All here. It's nuts. Yeah, absolutely.
It's our neck. For the people who can't see us, because this is audio as well, it's our neck. So sometimes I have a hard time swallowing, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't swallow. I've even had acupuncture where they put in, you just have to clear that hole. This is where we hold everything.
When's your birthday?
May 10th.
Mine's May 1st. I love that.
I love it. So good. Taurus, we're a little but we're cool.
We're grounded earth signs, and I think that's why I'll be honest, a lot of Taurus women are very empathic, and if they don't realize it, then they could get nasty. You know what I mean? Because then they'll get like overwhelmed or and they don't like. You have your outlets. You know how to treat yourself. Like you're like, and that's the thing. It's like, everybody has a special ability, like your Reiki healer, we all have abilities to help each other. And it's kind of like when you as an empath can help other individuals, then the empath needs some soothing, then goes to a Reiki person, then that Reiki person needs, some mediumship, goes and talks to psychics. There's a lot of awareness in the spiritual community, and a lot of that, like, that's great to know, because I definitely, I'm not a Reiki healer, but my dad taught me about Reiki and used to do a lot of Reiki things with me when I was dealing with negative spirit attachments.
Yeah.
So that helped me out a lot because it got rid of a lot of anxiety, and I was an angsty ass teenager. I'll tell you that. I took on a lot of ancestral energy when I was younger, and
did you wow.
A lot of angry ancestral energy. And I didn't realize that at the time, but as I got older and I started becoming more in tune with my abilities, then I started realizing, oh, this makes sense, like why I got this way about certain things. And now I try not to let things trip me out anymore, because, Tauruses can only take so much, and then there's that drop that just explodes the balloon.
That's correct. That's correct.
And then we just go, like, we'll, like, serve some dark, not dark. Sometimes it can be dark. Sometimes I've said things that are not very tactful.
Same here.
But
Same here.
Daggers of truth, like, I'm not going to say things to hurt you, but I'll say things that maybe I've never said as blunt for. Let's just put it that way.
That's right. Oh, I tell you, I feel as if this is the first time that I've been a human. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, having this human, but then I also get deja vu. Like today I had deja vu as if I've done this before. And it's just, and people actually think that that was one of my questions to you is, when people start feeling these feelings, because it can happen, it can actually break free at any time. Is that correct? So say if you have a loved one, you become very vulnerable, you're drinking or you do drugs, everything opens up. So what advice would you give to somebody who's having these feelings that we've been talking about, and they feel like they're a little nuts because, way back in the 50s, they would put you in the psychiatric ward if you had this, right?
Yeah.
That's what we watch on the Travel Channel. Sorry, Susan.
Yeah, exactly. The wards that I end up investigating. Oh my gosh. But so I think there's some systemic issues with what we see in the media today, and even in music and things like that. Where it tells people this is how you deal with uncomfortable situations. You go out to a bar. I don't know how many country songs are out there that target Americans, that are all about ain't nothing can't be solved without that shot of whiskey, or break into another beer, or, there's all this other stuff. There's even in hip hop, people have been like, oh, drinking that Ciroc, or, that freaking, whatever, hypnotic. I mean, that's so 90s, but whatever. I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like there's this undercurrent of like pushing, like, it's cool that if you have problems, you're going to drink it off, Right. And I think what that's doing is subconsciously getting into people to like use substances in the wrong way. So I smoke weed. I'm going to be 100% on board with I smoke weed. Sure. And I have smoked weed for maybe the wrong reasons since I was like 14. But now, I mean, I don't smoke weed every day. I smoke weed now, like specifically when I'm having certain ailments. Like if I'm having menstrual issues, I use that as medicine. Sure. If I'm having insomnia issues, I'm using that as medicine, and sometimes if I need just like if my mind's reeling, I'll smoke like an indica strain just to kind of get me down. And actually, to be honest, marijuana stunts my abilities as an empath.
Does it?
And if I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with empathic like overload, smoking weed can help. But I'll tell you, there are different vibrations when it comes to drugs and alcohol. Right. And a big low vibration drug for me, that's very common, especially like amongst, adults our age, is like cocaine. And now cocaine was developed by doctors as a sort of medicine, at first.
Right.
And then it was, to kind of help with people with lethargy, with headaches, things like that. And in doses was, actually very helpful for people that was dealing with like thyroid issues and things like that.
Sure.
Like a bump or something. But now people are just like going in and just, they're having addictive problems that they are just doing cocaine to even have fun. I have friends that don't want to go, well, let's call them acquaintances really, because they can't have a good time without buying a bag of blow and doing it all night. And you know what they're doing? Their idea of fun is getting lost in the bathroom like every 20 minutes that I can't even have a real conversation with them. Yeah. And they're not really connecting with people. Right. And they don't realize that they're having an addiction to it. And and also the process of cocaine now, like there's a difference. Like, do you know where your cocaine came from? That's like low vibrational traveling. Do you know how many people in South America and governments, like right now, like what's going on in Sonora, Mexico, and things that happened over in Medellin, Colombia, families, children, entire cities, governments are being corrupted. Women are being used and abused as mules, just taking in substances in their bodies and like balloons or condoms to poop it out so you could snort it at a party. Like, that's a low vibrational substance to me.
Oh my God.
So I think you have to be very careful, like when you have like these overloads. And I find a lot of people that are very sensitive are the ones that tend to get addicted to substances.
Yes.
And what I was doing, and I'll be 100% honest, about a couple years ago, like I worked at a music venue and I worked with musicians.
Yeah.
And I was taking up to like easy 6 to 7 shots of whiskey a night. It was like, and I'd work at a music venue every night. And I was like, I'm drinking like half a bottle of Maker's Mark.
Right.
I'm 5'4", and I'm like literally just feeling my vibrations lowering and lowering and lowering. And I'm like, wow, like, why am I drinking so much? And it's because like I'm getting overwhelmed with like everyone in the bands and things like that. And I'm drinking. So I was like, how do I stop this bad habit? and I wanted to learn like how to be more conscious and more like aware.
Yeah.
So I started taking, I had a friend that was in AA, and he was like, I started doing meditation techniques, and I ended up going to a transcendental meditation center in LA, and I learned the technique, and I found that the more that I did that technique, the less I craved alcohol, and my body started rejecting it altogether. So now I can't, my vibration does not melt well with alcohol anymore. And another thing is like, I don't smoke nearly as much weed as I used to smoke, you know? So like, I'm now using literally marijuana for medicinal purposes.
Sure.
And to be honest, like, I'm finding I can't even eat certain things anymore. So like vibrationally, like, I'm not going to claim that I'm vegan or vegetarian, because I do like eat fish, and sometimes I do eat like a day, but I used to eat a lot of meat, and now I just like find myself eating less and less of that. And I don't know, like maybe in a year from now, I might be vegetarian, I might be vegan, because I'm finding more and more that things just don't suit my vibration anymore, the more that I've meditated. And you know what? Shit doesn't bother me anymore now that I'm a steady practitioner, because I find that as I started aligning the energies in my body, my mind started clearing out, my empathic ability started lining up nicely.
Wow.
And I started gaining new abilities, like psychically. And that's kind of a dream clairvoyance, which is something that started happening within the last year and a half. So now now the types of energies that I see like are not even ghosts anymore. Like I'm getting downloads from like a consciousness source that I've seen. They've come to me as like balls of color or light, you know, things like that. The balls of light have never, to be honest, that's the thing I see the most. Sometimes they'll come to me. So now when I meditate, instead of them coming to me externally, they're coming from within me, and I'm getting the information and knowledge from those meditations that way.
Wow.
So I don't know what to say. I think substances is not the way to go. I would say learn how to meditate, you know?
Correct. Do you teach any of this to people?
Well, I can't say that I have taught meditation to anyone. I know my boyfriend's very interested in it. He sees me doing it. But I learned the transcendental meditation method, and they have exactly. So they have their own certified practitioners that know how to teach. And I mean, you're supposed to kind of find your mentor in TM, you know, and they're supposed to give you your mantra. And I feel like that's a power that maybe because I just started practicing that I don't have yet. You know, I'm still kind of a novice. I've only been meditating for like 2 years. So, but since those 2 years, I've noticed a vast change in my mental state and even in my biology that has elevated me as a human being, and also introduced me to new psychic abilities. So if you're interested in like becoming more in tune with your spiritual self, and you know, the practicing any form of meditation like regularly, I mean every day, you know, and sometimes I'll go into a meditation when I'm about to explode. I'm so fucking pissed off, you know, and I'm like, I just need to go meditate, and then my whole outlook changes. Sometimes I really do need to meditate on it. Like if something occurs in my life that would normally flip me on edge, I'll sit and meditate on it. And then you know what? All the roads and avenues on how to make that a beneficial thing for me instead of a detrimental thing for me, it starts to open up, you know, through meditation. And it keeps you from reacting so much. And, you know, Tauruses have a fierceness that, although we seem pretty chill on the most part, you rub us the wrong way, we can,
we'll react quick.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's a fast, you know, like a fast, like with the tongue, you know.
It's bad. It's pretty bad. I recognize that. As long as you recognize it, I always tell my family, I know, I'm sorry, I overreacted. It's just who I am. Just relax. Give me 10 minutes. and everything will
But
be
it
okay.
takes a lot to get to that point of
Yes.
reaction. It does. They don't realize that their fault has been like just drops in the bucket, and you've been patient, and then it just takes that once, you know.
That's
But yeah,
right.
I totally get it.
Thank you for all this information. I really appreciate you spending time with me with this, because it's a lot of people have these questions, and thank you. How did you get the Travel Channel job? That's pretty cool.
So before I was on Travel Channel, I had a series on the Sci-Fi Channel. So I was part of the Ghost Hunters shows for about 4 years. I started on Ghost Hunters Academy season 1. Then I did Ghost Hunters International, and I did that for 2 seasons, where I was investigating abroad at locations all over the world.
Right.
And I was on a few, like, I was on a couple of Ghost Hunter shows, but only as like an interviewee for like special, like the 100th episode or anything like, or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess from just doing, people have seen me investigate. So if they had followed my investigative career on television, then they would be able to like understand like where my expertise has come from. And yeah, and even before that, I was investigating in Miami with a local team that I had joined initially before I even got on Ghost Hunters for Sci-Fi.
Right.
But yeah, so I think, you know, excuse me, being on Ghost Hunters definitely opened up the door to do more stuff in television. And people that hire me have seen my professionalism on those investigations. Sure. So when Travel Channel rolled around with this, actually, they didn't officially contact me. They contacted one of my friends who's a UFO expert, and he's in New York. His name's Ryan Sprague. And he was busy working on his own stuff that he couldn't do that because he was launching his own series.
Right.
So he reached out to me, and he's like, they're looking for like paranormal experts, ufologists, like cryptozoologists. Would you be interested? And I was like, sure. Like, thanks for thinking of me. And then, yeah. So if it weren't for Ryan, I would have not gotten, so he threw my name in the hat, and then they did their research on me, and they're like, okay, we would love you to be one of our paranormal experts. So that's how I got on that show, was from, you know, being already noted on other shows like Ghost Hunters, and
Right.
and doing paranormal stuff on television has launched me, you know, into like the horror genre scene a little bit when it comes to film and stuff. So since I've been living in LA, people seek me out to do a lot of like horror films. So I've done a few of those since then too, which is a lot of fun, because then I can like, because paranormal phenomena isn't exactly like what you see in the movies, but sometimes it's nice to be part of a scene that is like that crazy.
Yeah. Because you are an actress as well, is that correct?
Yes, but I actually went to school for theater, and that, you know, being a paranormal investigator like was more like a personal endeavor that ended up going that route to television. But since I was a kid, since I was like in elementary school, I was in theater productions. I went to university for costume and theater. So yeah, I've always been on stage doing either costumes, production, or acting. It was always stage stuff. But yeah, but I think once you kind of work your way into television and there's a camera and film, and that's how I ended up doing, you know, that. I think also having a background in doing, you know, going to school and being used to like being on stage and being outspoken kind of helped groom me to also merge my spiritual path for television. So it's like sometimes when you realize the trajectory of your life and where you've come from, you're like, wow, there's a reason why certain things have happened. Like,
that's right.
Especially if you're intuitive and you follow your intuition, you know, and you see how all these points, that point A that led to point B, which looked like you were kind of going off course, really came back 10 years later for the win, you know, because it's like, oh, wow, like I didn't know that I you know, I'm wasting my time doing whatever art courses because this is what I love, but I should be going, you know, to I don't know, your mom makes you go to school as a doctor, or
Right.
and then you have the intelligence, and then in medicine you realize like, oh, maybe you want to do therapy, and then all of a sudden you're doing art therapy, and then you realize, wow, look at that, I merged like my MD with my art, and now I'm the most fulfilled in my career, you know? So sometimes it's like you kind of find your paths all the way around. So right now that I'm kind of at a little bit of that right now in my life, because I'm out here in the desert, and I just kind of decided there was an intuition in me that was like, get out of LA.
Yeah.
I know LA like has all the movies and has my, you know, the studios and all the television and the producers and like all that shit, but I wasn't feeling like myself and spiritually fulfilled there. You know, I felt like, you know, maybe there's an aspect to being out here in the desert that's going to open new opportunities for me. And sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith. And I've been taking leaps of faith my whole life. And even if I crashed and burned, I still was in a better position than I was when I leaped.
That's right.
You know?
So
it was like, just do it.
So this pandemic has changed you.
Well, I mean, you could say that for everyone a little bit, but it actually, what it did was it slowed down everything that I was doing in LA, and it like to a stop.
Yeah.
That I couldn't work at the music venue I was working at anymore, because all the shows I was doing a lot of like promoting, and I booked like rock and roll shows, and I got a lot like back doing that for a while. Again, a job that sustained me in LA, because I did that in Miami as a kid, throwing like little backyard shows, and then they turned into venue shows, and then I was like, what can I do in LA when I didn't have any shows going for me? Or and you know, being a paranormal investigator doesn't necessarily pay you. You know, a lot of the time I'm coming out of pocket to do my investigations, to go and travel to locations and things like that. So the only time I get paid for what I do is if it's on television, or if I'm, you know, writing for a journal or a book or something. So yeah, I had a day job, and my day job was working in music, and I kind of got sidetracked into that. It led me away from my spiritual path, and I realized, wow, I'm not going on investigations like I used to. And I'm saying no to things because maybe for whatever reason I get paid more to do music stuff now. And I'm not following my spiritual path. And then I'm, like I said, I was going in the venue, drinking shots every night. Like, it was just not healthy for my spiritual being. And I was like, all right, I need to change it up, you know, because this is not who I see myself as, you know, and I'm getting caught up in LA lifestyle, and, you know, I love nature too much to be like in a concrete jungle, you know? And so I moved on. Yeah.
So sometimes the universe does that for us. Like, you know, they're giving us these little things, you know, you need to change something. And that's what I feel as if we're going through
what
right
about
now.
you? Like, did the pandemic change anything within your situation?
Yeah, well, the thing is that I'm a reporter. So I go out to the schools and I, you know, report, and I mean, you know, I work for a medical magazine. I'm a writer. So this actually, going through this, I've been talking to a lot of people about the coronavirus, and I've actually been covering this on my show since it started. So we've been helping people. I had Paul Ferns on. He almost passed from the coronavirus, and I had a couple of other people. You know, it's just doing my job as a reporter is what I and as you can see, my hair is just I haven't slept. I'm exhausted. We had the fireworks here, so I'm finally getting some sleep. We've had they do the Roman candles, and they're using it as weapons around here. So so you're in a good place. Perhaps I'll call you up and be like, Susan, can I come sleep over for a minute?
Yeah, actually, there's the desert's a real beautiful. It's just hot as hell right now. So I would say, I mean, luckily I have like a pool here that like, but even then the pool's getting real hot. That's not as refreshing as I want it to be. I was like, this feels like a jacuzzi in the middle of the daytime.
Oh my God.
I'm like, this is not as refreshing as it should be.
Yeah.
But I did go on a trip. Remember, we were trying to figure out like how to like have this
Yes.
meet, and postponed it to today because I literally left for 9 days and just went straight into nature and backpacked. We went to Kings Canyon. I went all the way up to Big Sur, to the Redwood National Forest, Sequoia National Park. Just kind of like, again, just swimming in rivers and lakes, like looking at the stars at night, smelling the pine, of the wonderful flowers that are out. That is so healing to me. You have no idea.
Of course.
So that was great. I feel really good about that. And I'm also, being in the desert, I know it's kind of dead out here, but I'm only about like 45 minutes away from like one of the biggest mountain communities and ski communities. So I could just go up the mountain and then I'll be in like beautiful pines and lakes again. So that's another thing. It would take me too long to get anywhere from LA,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, now nature's in my back.
Good. I'm glad that you
about it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're able to just sit back and just let nature take over, as they say.
Yeah.
So Susan, thank you so much. Where can people find you?
Well, I am mostly on Instagram. I'm Susan the Dragon Witch, all one word. And I'm shooting right now in quarantine for season 3 of Paranormal Caught on Camera for the Travel Channel. So keep your eye out for that. We have a new night. It's on Sundays now. So Sunday nights, you'll catch me and my other hosts and experts talk about all things like ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, angels, anything supernatural in nature. And then I also have the darkzone.tv, which I do all my personal paranormal endeavors on. So you could follow me there. And there is something coming up in the works that I might be doing a lockdown in a haunted location soon and be streaming it live. So that way I'll be investigating with whomever wants to join me virtually. We did that last month at the Conjuring House, which was a lot of fun and also a little bit creepy. But so it was a success with the Dark Zone. So we're going to do it again. And right now we're in discussions with a really cool location that you've probably heard about, but I can't say it.
Okay. Well, that's on the Travel Channel.
But a lot of things that I get to do now. No, so this is the lockdown paranormal stuff is for the darkzone.tv, which is it's me, produced by a bunch of other paranormal investigators that I love. We have our own content that we do. And so you could check it out if you're into paranormal research or paranormal phenomena. I definitely recommend you check out the darkzone.tv. Follow me on Instagram, Susan the Dragon Witch, and check out Paranormal Caught on Camera Sunday nights on Travel Channel.
Thank you so much, Susan. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. I appreciate it.
It's so great getting to know you too, Melissa. You're awesome.
Thank you, Susan. So are you. Thank you very much.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you to Bruno's Restaurant, located at 158-22 Cross Bay Boulevard, Queens, New York, for sponsoring the show. Bruno's is family operated with the finest of Italian cuisine, daily specials, and brick oven pizza. They are currently serving outside dining.